Welcome to today's Iris session, brought to you by BrightRock, provider of the first ever life insurance that changes as your life changes. I'm David O'Sullivan, and today we're here to talk about wedding budgets. Big days cost big money, and that's why planning a wedding is one of the first financial challenges most couples tend to face once they decide to tie the knot, especially if they're planning the wedding of their dreams. Where are you supposed to draw the line? Are there any ingenious ways to have the best of both worlds, affordability and the stuff that dreams are made of? Well, joining me in the studio today, I have three guests. My first guest is Mike Sharman. He's the co-founder of Retroviral, an award-winning digital communications agency, and he was also named as one of the Mail and Guardian's top 200 young South Africans in 2013. So now the fact that you married, does that disqualify you as a young South African? It's done on age, I suppose, is it, Mike?
I think I'm still young, according to the rules. I have to be under 35, so I'll take it.
And you've just got married as well?
Yes, I have indeed, in Elgin at the Old Mac Daddy. It was an amazing day, and I think it's one of those things that we had an awesome time. We had our best friends and our family, and partied the night away.
And was it stressful?
Super stressful, and things really weren't helped by fluctuations in the rand. As our honeymoon budget, obviously some of it had been prepaid at the start of December, and then the rest post certain altercations within our financial structures led to an increase in costs.
Okay, so Nenegate was responsible.
Yes.
I didn't think we were going to bring politics into this, but right from the get-go we do.
There we go, straight into it.
Well, thank you for that, Mike. My next guest is Callie Collins. She's the owner of the Wedding Specialists and founder of the SA School of Weddings. And I'd imagine, Callie, in your day-to-day job, you're dealing with the stress of brides and mothers-in-law and mothers?
Yes, and managing expectations of both. We've got to manage the expectations of the bride and obviously the mothers and the mother-in-laws who wanting to have their dream wedding that they didn't have all those years ago.
You've been doing this for what, 11 years?
Yeah, it's actually 13 years
13
now.
years now.
Yeah.
Does it get any easier for you in terms of your nerves? Have you got a blueprint that you know is going to work? And you don't have to be nervous.
I think you've always got that those heavy shoulders, and you always want to have the best day for that bride. But I think it just comes down to a bride's different personalities.
Certainly.
And you've got to manage that. Not everybody's the same, and not everybody has the same expectations. So you've got to manage those. And
we're looking to you for some great advice. And also I want to hear some stories as well about the kinds of weddings that you've been involved in, the ones that have had an impact on you that you would like other people to replicate. So if those are some of the things I'm going to be asking you about. The person who's going to tell us, I don't know if she's going to tell us not to get married. She's certainly going to say, well, hold on, look how much money it's costing. Don't you want to invest it? Is Maya Fisher-French, well-known personal financial journalist, and she's the force behind the financial website Maya on money.co.za and City Press's column My Money, My Lifestyle. And she joins us, I think you're down in Cape Town, Maya. Welcome to you, and thanks for your time.
Thank you, David.
Am I right in suggesting that you're going to say, don't get married, or at least look at the amount of money that you're going to be spending on a wedding, maybe go and invest it, eloping rather? Is that your philosophy?
I always feel like the party pooper in these kind of conversations, David. That I don't think it's about not having the wedding of your dreams. It's just about planning it. And I think in South Africa, or I think all people really, whenever it comes to these great life events, we just don't plan for them. We buy a house without maybe saving the deposit. We plan the wedding perhaps without wondering about the full implications of the costs. And I just think any young couple, the last thing you want to do in your first few years of marriage is to take on debt unnecessarily. And I think that's what it is. It's about planning a wedding that you can actually afford, and afford means not taking on unnecessary debt.
So having a budget is obviously going to be one of the crucial things, and I'll discuss that with Callie in a bit more detail. I'll also get an idea from Mike on how he went and planned budgets and things like that. From my perspective, I just handed it all over, delegated. Well, in fact, I didn't delegate it. My wife took responsibility for everything. I had very little to do with my own wedding, and I think I preferred it that way. But from your perspective, Maya, what advice then, financial advice, are you giving people who are about to tie the knot? How should they be approaching a wedding? How much money should they be putting aside? And is there some financial vehicle that they should be looking at getting that will assist them in paying off a wedding?
I think one of the challenges facing young couples today is that, in the old-fashioned way, the parents used to pay, the bride's parents would pay for the wedding, and the groom's parents would pay for the drinks. And the reality is that most of our parents today are retiring with not enough money to support themselves, let alone having enough money now to splurge out on weddings. So many young couples now are really having to fund that wedding themselves. So that's quite a big change in terms of the costing and the money available. And then there's so many other things. The wedding, how much, is that a decision that you make as a couple? Or is that the kind of like, literally expecting a really big diamond irrespective of the cost? I mean, those are very interesting discussions to have before you enter a marriage, because it says a lot about how you're going to make decisions going forward and who takes responsibility for the money. So I think for me, financial planning around a wedding, I think can be quite an important opportunity for you to decide how you're going to manage finances in your marriage and what your different personality types are. And I think that's really, really important. And in terms of planning and saving, obviously, if you get engaged, there's going to be a period of time, or you're paying lobola, there's going to be a period of time before that wedding is actually happening. And for that, you would use a sort of short-term savings vehicle, bank accounts. In fact, I've just been working on an article looking at interest rates. And interest rates are very attractive if you're trying to save, but not if you're trying to borrow. So you can be putting money away into a notice account or fixed deposit, something over a shorter period of time. You're wanting to be putting money, a war chest aside, so that you can give Carly all that money. She'll tell us how much money you need. But that's really what it is. But I would say this is a foundation for the rest of your lives together. Have it make the decisions as a couple. Don't do what David did and his wife planned the whole thing. But make this an opportunity to find out what money matters to you. What are your goals and your aspirations? If a really big wedding now means not being able to put a deposit down on your dream home, is that the decision you want to be making? And that's a decision a couple can make together.
Certainly, because your next big expense surely is going to be the home. And I suppose people might be inclined to go for a bank loan and get that to finance the wedding. Of course, that's something that then has to be serviced. Would you advise people rather look at the savings issue first, rather than exploring the options of taking out some kind of financial loan?
I wrote an article on this, which I think is on the Change Exchange site, so people can go and look at the actual numbers I use. But if you take, for example, that you go and you borrow 150,000 rand, that's what it costs you for the wedding, rings, the ball, or whatever you put into that amount. You're going to be paying 5,500 rand a month for the next 3 years to pay that off. 5,500 rand for the next 3 years. Is that really a cost that you want to take, and the impact that has on exactly that, going and applying for a mortgage, let alone not having a deposit on a home? You won't be able to qualify for a mortgage. We're busy paying off that kind of debt right in the beginning. So definitely, this is something, to me, I don't believe that one should be taking a debt to get married. To me, that would be a very bad omen for getting married. Absolutely.
Well, certainly it's 5,000 odd rand now, and you consider interest rates are going up, and the chances of that trend continuing as inflation increases. I think that by the end of the year will be a little bit more money. So I hear that advice. Maya, thanks for that. I'm going to come back to you a little bit later on in the program. My guests are here in the studio, and a lot easier to have a conversation with you. Mike, for your wedding, and tell us from your perspective, how did it work? Did you go and sit down with a budget, or were you like me, who just realized, I'm not going to have any influence in this, I hand it over?
I think that there are certain non-negotiables for the big day. I mean, the dress to the lady, that's one of the most important things. And I think that from our point of view, we kind of took a lot more of a methodical approach, sat down, we discussed kind of all the specific line items, and then you have that miscellaneous line item, which unfortunately continues to grow and grow as that discussion and as that big day nears. So fortunately, my wife is very planned and structured, and we both work in an advertising environment. I'm more in the digital space, she's more in the traditional space, but she is really quite prudent with the way in which she likes to plan, whereas I'm a little bit more scatterbrained at times. So it was important to start off with a base of what are we trying to achieve from this day, from an execution point of view, sound like real advertisers, and what is the delivery.
What's more important to you? Are you excited? Do you want to focus on the drinks and people having fun, or is it that she wants to have this great lavish dress?
Exactly.
So you've got to look at what's more important to the couples, and where are they prepared to spend the money on?
You got married, you said, down in the Western Cape?
Yes, in the Elgin area.
Now that's beautiful down there. Was there a particular reason for that?
No, we did a whole bunch of research, and we'd seen a few blog posts around interesting venues and places to go, and there was a spot in particular called the Old MacDaddy, which has a whole bunch of these old American steam trailers, and it really is a beautiful place that's like nestled in the valley, and beautiful kind of surroundings and orchards and all that kind of thing. So it really was based on what we'd seen online, a lot of the research. Now, you know, with our generation, everything is researched. Everything is like peer-to-peer recommendations. We look at what other people have said, what wedding photographers have taken, what you know, companies such as yours do in their recommendations from their blogs and their posts on social media. So it was a lot of research at the start, and then finding certain places, which then led to researching the venue, actually going to physically see it. The venue nearly had a fire scare a month before too, so there were all these like extra pressures that were added into the mix as we came closer to the big day.
Okay, you did a fair amount of planning, and I'm talking about you as the groom, which from my perspective and the circle I move in, tends not to happen.
I had my hand dragged into different directions.
Oh, I see.
No. But yes, it was quite collaborative, but I definitely wouldn't take the actual plaudits of being involved in so much of a microcosm of a level. Like, it was definitely led by my wife, and then I was there more from a support system.
But it's interesting, because you're both in the advertising industry, you had a certain thought process and planning process that you implemented there as well. I'm a journalist. We have no planning. We just know we've got to get stuff done by a deadline, which we then miss. Yes. You can't do that at a wedding. And I was going to suggest Muldersdrift's just up the road. I mean, we're here in Joburg. Elgin was a bit far to go, but it sounds like it is a beautiful venue.
Yes, beautiful.
Now, Callie, you're the person who's going to give us all the advice. From your perspective, when you sit down with a client, is your first question how much?
Not really. I do prefer not to speak about budget straight up. I want to understand what the bride and the groom are looking for first. And a lot of them are starting, oh, I want this lavish wedding, and I've been on Pinterest, and I've seen this on social media.
Yeah.
And it's all great to understand that. So it's great to understand what their expectations are. But then towards our end of our consultation, I do want to find out realistically what budget have we got to look at. And a lot of brides don't want to be honest about that, or couples. They don't actually want to be honest in terms of coming to a planner. They think, and I think it's a thing that people think of, having a wedding planner is a luxury, but it's actually not. I think it's a necessity, and I'm interested to know, did you do all the planning yourself?
No, we had a planner.
Okay,
yes.
So you know, the planner should be there. You should engage a planner that you're comfortable with and that you can feel comfortable with to speak about budget. Because I know there's a lot of planners out there, they want to do these lavish weddings and they want to be able to go and post it all over social media and whatever, which is great, but the reality is that our jobs are there to actually manage budgets.
Yes.
So you've got to engage a wedding planner that you feel comfortable with, to be able to say, okay, you know what, I've got this amount of money, what can we do with that? And then that planner is there to actually speak to the different suppliers to find out where they can pull and push the budget.
That's for me is one of the critical things, because I would imagine, and I've looked at your website, and you've got a lot of suppliers. And I would imagine you can then negotiate with suppliers, where I wouldn't be as a person trying to plan my own wedding. I wouldn't be in that position, and I wouldn't know how to actually go about it. So you would know what to say to whom.
Yes, and it's not about the suppliers necessarily getting the wedding planners getting discounts from the suppliers, but because we built such a good relationship, and it's a two-way street. Some planners will take that commission on that the actual supplier would pay to the wedding planner for recommending, which brides a lot of the times don't know about. Or there's those planners who will say, you know what, I've got a relationship with you. I would rather the bride is, or the couple is paying me a planning fee. I want you to give me the discount for the bride as opposed to paying me the commission.
Yes.
So that is something that a couple actually need to. And it's a very awkward situation as well. Are you taking commission from your suppliers, or are your suppliers giving us a discount because I'm paying you a planning fee? So there's two scenarios there which couples have to look at when they're engaging a planner.
Are you able to give advice on everything from the dress to the font of the invitation?
Yes, absolutely. I do myself. I'm not necessarily a dress person. I was a Springbok touch rugby player, so I do have a bit of a tendency to be a bit of a tomboy. So dresses and things like that, I've had to kind of come into my.
Sorry. A Springbok touch rugby
I
player.
thought I was going to go into organising the World Cups and, you know, the Olympics, but the reality is that, you know, not everyone can do that. So
That is
I ended
fantastic.
up, actually ended up doing weddings. My mom got married for the second time, and I think that's what's actually helped me with a planner. I'm a very down-to-earth type of person. I'm not this bold out there. Some people think I would be bold and out there, but I want to listen. I don't want to push my ideas onto you. I'm obviously going to give you advice on that, but I'm not going to say, you know what, your colors, you've come to me with pink and silver, but you know the trend is this. Yes, that's important for us to discuss, but I don't want to push my complete ideas onto you, because at the end of the day, I'm not planning my wedding, I'm planning your wedding. So that's where I think it's helped me that I can actually just be a little bit of a level-headed type of planner. So that's from my side.
I'm going to get more of the ideas of planning. Let me go back to Maya Fisher-French, our financial expert, personal financial expert here. Maya, we're talking about budgets, and the budget is the critical thing. What are the disciplines in getting a budget together? How should one do it? Pick up a pen and paper or get your spreadsheet out, then what? What's the thought process?
I'm going to just ignore your question because I have to comment on something Carly was saying. And I'm not in studio to do that. But you know, the opportunity for a wedding planner to actually cut costs and take the hassle out is a very, very important one, because I went through that, not with my wedding, but when I was building a house. And I think, David, I was on with you, and we got to a point where our marriage was definitely under strain about which tiles to choose and which wall colors, and it was just too much. And you know, we brought in an interior designer. It was the best thing we ever could have done. It made our lives so much easier, and it, without a doubt, saved us a huge amount of money in terms of mistakes and possibly access to better suppliers. So I just wanted to give a plug there, because I certainly, from my experience of using experts, it was very positive. But in terms of the spreadsheets, I think it really, and you know, you need to start off understanding what, and I know that feeling, Carly, as well, with having built a home. You also go to your interior designer with these incredible pictures that you found on Pinterest, and their job really is to say, right, what can we duplicate, but in a far less expensive way? You can go for an at-home lamp, which just quite resembles the designer lamp, for example. So I think a really key start is to say, what is it that you have to spend? And I think that's not just a discussion people are afraid to have with the wedding planner. I think it's a discussion people are afraid to have with each other. And also even with yourself, what value am I placing on this? So I think it really starts off with that question, and that's quite a tough and difficult question. And I think one also needs to get some kind of ballpark figure as to what, if we're having 50 guests, what is the kind of ballpark figure? If we're having 100 guests, what's the ballpark figure? And then start deciding, do we not invite all the extended family, or do we invite? And so I think it really starts with a lot of conversations. And then obviously once one comes down to some kind of budget, and then you can start, sort of allocating it. But Carly may be able to give us a little bit. Certainly, friends of mine who've got married more recently. I got married 20 years ago, so I can't even talk about that. What a lot of them said is that they're unexpected costs and overruns. So I think that one has to be quite ready for that and almost have a little contingency in place. So once you've got all of your idea of where everything's going to get spent, maybe to have sort of 5 or 10% of your budget put aside for unexpected costs.
Okay, that's something important. I hadn't actually thought about the overruns, and now that you mention it, there's a dark space in my brain which remembers that happening at my particular wedding as well. The extra money that we needed to put behind the bar because, well, my mates just went mad, which is something I wasn't anticipating. I'll ask Kelly if we get me some ballparks, but Mike, did you have a budget? Did you work according to budgets?
Yes, we did, and I think just to add to some of the comments that Maya's made and Kelly's made is that most people enter in a relationship and they never really start talking about money. And I think that I'm in a fortunate position where we have brutal honesty on most fronts in terms of our relationship. But I think there's a stat that says like 97% of South Africans are in debt. And I think that it's one of the leading causes of actual divorce and breakdown of comms and relationships, because you don't have a base to start talking about cash. And I think a wedding is a really good project together where you have the ability to really start understanding like what the stresses are from a financial point of view within your relationship. So putting together this budget, I mean, us for example, we've used our wedding budget as a base and then looked at, like what kind of household budget is necessary going forward. My wife took a sabbatical for a while from being the MD of an ad agency to starting her own business. So we looked at all those different implications of like what stresses will that bring going forward after this magical fairy tale, then like how do you proceed from there? So the short answer to your question is yes, we did have a budget, but I think that it's important to take the learnings of those budgetary stresses and then realizing the overruns from a miscellaneous point of view so that you can incorporate that into your lifestyle spend once you actually have said your nuptials.
Well, in fact, you were very forward thinking in the way you were doing your budget, because you were saying what are the implications of spending that amount of money on us going forward, and it was something Maya was saying, you don't want to find yourself paying off a wedding when actually you want to start paying off a mortgage, and whether you would qualify for the mortgage with that kind of debt. So you need to be very careful about your budget. So you got your budget. How did you anticipate, we'll get a better view from Kali about this, but how did you work out what Maya's calling the ballparks? What's the ballpark on the dress? What's the ballpark on the booze bill? The ballpark on the flowers? Did you have any inclination of how to calculate that kind of thing? You left that to somebody else, didn't you?
Yeah, I think a lot of that, it was left to my wife and she worked on a lot of those elements. But I think that it comes back to the day and age of desktop research. Like we have the ability to have so much information at our fingertips, and we have the ability to say, okay, cool, these are kinds of breaking down things in a pre-production kind of way, which would be like all the before stuff. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then actual execution and production day. And then that comes through all the different elements, and each day is obviously compartmentalized between service and then actual event, and then there's all the bits and pieces beforehand, like hens parties and bachelor parties and all those kinds of things.
But your wife doesn't want to become a wedding planner. I think she would be fabulous.
She's incredible. It's
But you know what, the funny thing is that before I started doing weddings, while I was doing it part-time, was actually an art buyer working on the behind the scenes of an advert. So it's quite interesting to listen that you had your budgets, and I know how important it was to stick to budget, and that's why
it's like rugby playing art buyer.
Oh yeah,
we could go down a rabbit hole here. We need to have a sequel to this.
We are way down this rabbit hole without.
There's no going back now.
No.
But it's good to hear that you understood it from that perspective. You worked out your budgets and you've done the research, which I think is so important. If there's one lesson to learn, go and do the research.
Absolutely.
The other lesson is let's get the wedding planner, because the wedding planner knows a hell of a lot more than we know. Yeah. And that is why we look to you, our art buying, rugby playing, wedding planner.
Crime fighter.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Paramedic. I don't know what's next.
No.
Something else is going to
have a
jump
heart attack
out.
on us now.
No.
We don't want to test out a paramedic
I've got
skills.
somebody here. Ducking and diving and dodging and weaving are things you can do very well as well. But let's work out, when we talk about the ballparks, how do you assign ballparks?
You know what, I think the easiest way we've kind of worked it out now, being working on weddings, the average plain Jane wedding would actually work out about 2,500 Rand per person. Now, you think about your budget, you don't have to give it to us. But if you actually had to think about your photographer, the dress, the food, we actually work it on about 2,500 Rand per person. And that sounds ridiculous.
Okay.
Now, we had Maya mentioning 100,000 Rand. Now, if you're having 100 people, that's 2,000 Rand, but 200,000 Rand budget. So,
sure.
But
I'm
now
glad I'm married already.
Yeah.
I think we didn't use you as a wedding planner.
No, but if
No,
you
I'm
actually
joking,
had to,
yeah.
if you actually had to list down every single cent you've spent, from all the little gadgets that were bought just because this was an idea, maybe we can look at this. If you actually had to encompass everything in the year or year and a half that you planned spending planning this wedding, you're probably looking in that ballpark figure.
Well, that's interesting to know, and I do recall that when we were looking at these things, we were looking at in terms of catering, how much per person, but that wasn't factoring in all the other stuff, the dress and the
Yes.
photographer and things like
I'm
that.
encompassing everything into
Yes.
that figure.
Okay.
That's what
So
that's what you look at.
Decor,
That
Yeah.
would be the ballpark. What's the most lavish? We don't want names, but what's the most lavish budget you've ever worked with?
I mean, I've mentioned this a few times that it was a vow renewal actually, 18-year vow renewal. It was an 8 million Rand. It was an
8 million Rand.
It was, yes.
Were there helicopters involved?
Yes, there was.
You see, if I'm going
Yeah,
to
it was. Pardon?
And rappers performing.
No, it wasn't rappers, but something like that. Nearly.
Have you heard the story of this Russian oligarch whose daughter got
amazing.
married? Have a guess at how much the wedding cost. Just In dollars, US dollars. Go for the highest number you could think of that is for a wedding. The highest number, Mike.
$900 million.
You're under.
Really?
Under.
Wow.
$1 billion.
No ways.
$1 billion. He had Sting, he had J-Lo, and
I know she wasn't anything special either.
no, and they spent a bit, because when I read the article, I thought, well, it has to be misreported, because $1 billion is just ridiculous. Yeah, somebody's gone wrong, but then just Google it a little bit more and find there are more and more articles, and this is the right amount of money that was spent. Can you fathom how they could spend $1 billion? It's got to be the most unique caviar that is being eaten, and loads of it.
Loads of it, and they haven't spared on anything. Absolutely.
Yeah, and they clearly went on a honeymoon
I
cruise
couldn't even
on
fathom. It's quite. You actually think I don't even know how I would do that.
So your $8 million really is just
that's nothing.
peripheral.
Kind of look like chump change.
I know. I'm like, okay.
We won't go on the political return.
Well, if the oligarchs are trying to upstage one another, that guy's there's a fair amount to do to upstage him, and his he's worth $6 billion, so he spent a sixth of his fortune on his daughter's wedding. Wow. Let's talk more practically then. When it comes to anybody else who's looking at doing a wedding, there are a whole lot of things that are traditionally part of what a Western wedding, if that's the way we can categorize this. What do you think can be removed? What are the things that people always want, but you really don't have to have?
Well, in terms of have to have, there's a lot of important things. I do feel, and I know a lot of women will probably want to kill me right now, but I think they can really cut down on dress costs.
Yes.
That becomes a very emotional thing. And when they go into these dress shops, and you see the rand dollar is affecting our dress prices because a lot of the designers are overseas. And I think if you want to try and cut down on costs, look at your local designers that you could possibly look at. They're not dealing with the rand dollar. So I do feel you could possibly cut on your dress.
Yes.
And it's one day to go and spend 20,000, 30,000 rand on a dress. I don't know if I can.
Can you not just go?
Do you know how much your wife spent on a dress, or has she disclosed that to you?
I have an interesting story. I had a boss once who she was getting married, and then she ordered a dress from Amazon from a Chinese supplier. And I actually went with her to the post office to collect the parcel when it arrived. And it was literally in an envelope this big. And she kind of went a little bit of a change in shade. And I burst into laughter because I thought, oh, this is phenomenal.
And,
Yeah. And then she opened up the envelope and it poofed right out of there. And from that, it was like one of the most incredible stories, because you always talk about that emotional and irrational decision to spend tens of thousands of rands on dresses. And in this instance, sure, she needed to do some adjustments, and she needed to get some of the elements tailored and everything. But there, on the actual day, it turned out to be an amazing dress, and no one would have ever known.
Yeah.
So I won't disclose names because he's probably kept it a secret for all those years.
Oh, but you can buy it on Amazon.
That's it. You buy anything online.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I just didn't think it came in a little envelope at the post office. That's quite.
I've had some horror stories on
sure.
that as
Go
well.
on. I think it's hit or miss.
We've had, that's why I say, they just. But sometimes what it looks like online and what it actually ends up being, and the quality of it can be very different. And we do end up sometimes having brides say, "Oh, I've done this, and can you help me last minute? It's arrived and it's terrible." And so I think that was an extreme case. But and also we do have a lot of unfortunately we have a lot of Chinese copies that are copying designers, which then at the end of the day is affecting the designer.
Yes.
So that also you don't really want to encourage
piracy.
that dress piracy. Absolutely.
It's a real thing.
It is a real thing. It really is a real thing.
But
So.
why have a designer? Can you not just go to the? My wife, I can just feel her eyeballs bearing into me right now.
Probably.
She's got that radar where she knows I'm saying the wrong things, but it just seems.
She's like, gosh, what are you talking about?
Yes, exactly.
Why are you encouraging this?
She's sitting in a meeting going, I can hear he's doing something stupid, but I'm persisting with this. Can you not go to a shop and buy something off the shelf, off the hanger?
You can, but they ultimately have brought them in. There's not many, there's actually very few actual dress designers that you could actually go to and have a dress designed. And a lot of people want to buy off the shelf. They want to see what it looks like. So they can try it on and they'll fit it and then they'll bring it in. But the designers, we've got incredible designers here that actually, if the brides actually trusted them, would have a lot more of people actually going and getting dresses from them.
You can cut costs on the dress. You can be a lot more careful about it. Go and do some research. Go to Amazon. Get an envelope at the post office.
Yeah.
There's one idea.
And then there's another one that Maya did say, quality versus quantity.
Yes.
You know, you want to invite all your work colleagues, but at the end of the day, reality is when are you going to move jobs? Are you going to be with them for the rest of time? And if maybe that you're working with them now, but are you going to work with them in 2, 4, 5 years' time? So I think look at your guest list, because at the end of the day, if you are timesing everything by your 2,000 rand, you know, okay, that's the food, but it's quality versus quantity,
and
that can,
yes,
absolutely.
In that guest list, like you say, it has to be a rational decision based on: am I going to be mates with this person in 3 years' time? Am I going to even care if I have a bit of an awkward water cooler moment because I didn't invite John from accounting to the wedding, for example?
That's right. Or just have your wedding in Elgin, for example, where
a lot of people are doing that as well.
I think it's a fabulous way of doing it. If you really are that committed to this couple getting married, you make the effort to go pay for the flights down, and if, you know, it's so much easier. Love to come, but busy.
Yes.
Can't get a babysitter.
And a lot of people are doing that.
Yes, that's the way to do it. I would imagine when I look at weddings that I've been to, I'm now of that age where I don't go to weddings. I go to funerals more than weddings, which is a terrible part of my life. I'm closer to that end than that end. But I recall the best champagne comes out for the toasting of the bride, and it's this brief moment where it gets slugged back, and then the lads are on the beers and the women are on the spritzers. That's right. And I think you really didn't need the moat.
And that is one of the things, the decisions that we made, especially from a champagne point of view. It's like, if people ask for it for the toast, then serve them. But there's wine on the tables, and there's things that people are going to drink full bottles of. Like most situations, you go to weddings where there's half bottles of champagne, and it's just a huge waste. It's an expense that, when you think about it rationally, like, how can you make a compromise where you still have that offering but you're not wasting? And the wastage is what kills you from a budget point of view.
So I always say to my brides as well, or clients, when they're wanting to know, do we put a bottle of white and a bottle of red and a bottle of champagne per table? I say to them, no. Rather put it on your menu that this is what wine's on offer. But if you're sitting at a table full of 10 people, you're going to say, would you like to share a bottle of wine with me? You know, if it's on the table, you're going to open it. But if you're now thinking of having a glass of wine, you're going to ask somebody, does somebody want to share a bottle? So they're going to think twice before opening that bottle, or they'll ask a waiter, please can I have a bottle? But they've already made a note that they're going to be sharing it with somebody. You're not having one person drinking out of that one bottle.
Except if you've got your journo mates, of course.
Of course,
absolutely.
And advertising industry, I know.
Guys aren't shy to have a drink.
Exactly. So there are two areas. You can be a lot more prudent about your dress costs. You can be a lot more prudent about your booze costs. I'm going to get Maya Fisher-French in here, because I just got this feeling down the line from Cape Town that she's busting to add some more information here. Maya, you got some thoughts on what we've been chatting about?
Well, you know what I did for my wedding dress? Here's another element. I actually rented it. So I had a top designer dress and I rented it because it's for a day. And, you know, because when I got married, I was 22 and we were broke and we didn't have parents to fund it and all the rest of it. And we didn't want to go into debt. And, you know, I had a stunningly beautiful designer dress for, I don't know, maybe 15-20% of the cost. So that's another one to add to the options. You just don't have to tell anybody. I can tell you now because 20 years later, you know, you never have to tell anyone. No one needs to know. I think that's quite a key.
There's not many dress rental places, because they can only rent that dress out 3 times. Because by the time you've gone through the bush and taken photos and had your drinks and whatever else, so there's not many places that rent. There is we've got social media, so there is the second-hand dress option. So they have there's a place called Vintage Lace. You know, they list their dresses online, and it's only been worn once, and then they sell it that way. So that's also an option. But I know the dress rental market, there is that market, but there's not many people that offer it because it's quite an expensive process as well. It's like, I know it can be 7,000 to 10,000 rand just to rent the dress.
What other areas? We've looked at the dress. We've looked at the catering and the booze, for example. What other areas do you tell your clients, here's an area where you can actually reduce your costs?
In terms of reducing, stationery could be an option because of the online. Yes. I'm a little bit of old school like that. You know, all our important documents in life are always documented on paper. So save the dates, absolutely send it out electronically. But that invite, I really still don't believe that you should be sending it out via email. Especially in the African culture, you can't really send it out via email because it will just be shared. And then you actually don't know how many people are coming to the wedding. So it just depends on the nature nature of the type of wedding. But yes, you could cut on stationery and gifts as well. A lot of people, the little bonbonnieries that people are putting on the table, rather maybe put that money somewhere else.
Yeah, don't have
do
that.
it. You know,
I'm not expecting to go to
can
a
you
wedding and
remember
get a gift.
what did you do for gifts?
Oh, we just made a donation.
That's
in lieu of
exactly. A
that,
lot of
so
people are
we
doing
supported
that.
a charity.
Yeah.
who
Fantastic
helped out,
idea.
yeah. But I mean, the thing that we were speaking about off air earlier was just, I mean, the huge expense is obviously honeymoon and post-wedding. So you've got pre-production, production, and then post-production. You know, like that's like a real kind of advertising way of looking at it. But, you know, the honeymoon, I think there's simple tricks when you're booking a holiday, regardless of where you're going, about, you know, trying to book those flights as early in advance as possible, and then obviously booking your accommodation as late as possible, because you have sites like booking.com and you have these last-minute deals because hotel rooms expire at the end of the night, you know, and people have to push that inventory. Whereas a flight, obviously you pay more the closer to the deadline because you're desperate to fly.
That's
and
right.
yeah, I think that we were obviously in a situation where we had paid some of our costs up front, and then the rand did have an impact on paying that last 50% towards the end of December. So we took a little bit of a knock on that, but I think that there were certain things that we made decisions on along the way, and I think those were the things like the booze. We had digital invites because
I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm going with
and the
that.
same with the thank yous and stuff as well. An email straight away to thank people for attending, and those kinds of things. And I think that there are tricks to get around savings, and like you say, if it's 200 rand per guest that you're saving, that all adds up at the end of the day.
And I think a lot of people also, you know, a lot of the suppliers, it's 50% up front, and then the remainder 50% comes in 2 to 3 weeks prior to the wedding. But and that's when a lot of brides start to stress, and you see the couples, the tension goes, because they're just seeing all this money 2 weeks prior to their wedding going out. If they'd actually just staggered their payments, they won't feel it as much, and then that adds to the stress before the wedding. So just chatting to the suppliers, saying, you know, I understand your terms and conditions are 50% on approval and the remainder 2 weeks before. Can I do it in 4 stages, or, you know, can I pay it off a little bit further in advance?
But it's this planning that is
It all comes
the
down to
most
planning.
critical thing. You can't just jump into this. I think the lessons we're getting, certainly from from all three of you, is that you've got to have done your research ahead of time to understand what it is you're dealing with, and you've got to have that budget. You've got to have the wedding planner. But as my opening comments were, that you want to try and strike that balance between affordability and the wedding of your dreams. And I would imagine, and I can't speak for women, but it does seem to me that women dream of wedding days from when they're little girls, whereas blokes dream about wedding days the day before.
Yes.
So
And they dream about the honeymoon afterwards.
yeah, exactly. But there's a much bigger expectation. And I would imagine that part of your job then is to try and talk people down from what they want to what they can afford.
Yes, and that's where it comes down to just actually engaging the right person. And also when it comes down to your suppliers, actually get quotes and, like you said, do research and see which suppliers are offering what and for what value. It's not about the cheapest quote, absolutely not, because that's when you're going to, you know, I always sometimes we have brides that want this champagne wedding on a beer budget. But it's also looking at what your individual suppliers are offering and what are you getting for that money. So it's very important to research and dissect what you're getting.
And I think gimmicks as well, like it's a huge trend to have photo booths at your wedding and things like that. So, you know, people want to differentiate their wedding from every other wedding they've been to, or want to have a lasting impression.
Everybody wants to outdo.
It's keeping up with the Joneses kind of
exactly.
approach. But like, what is the gimmick that will work really nicely, and what is the thing that you should cull because it's not going to make financial sense? Like, why would you spend 2.5 to 3 grand on a photo booth, for example, when that's something that could go into something else?
And maybe your photographer's already included it in his package.
Yes.
Oh,
So,
yes.
you know.
I suppose that there are some things that you really can't skimp on, and that would be the documenting of the wedding.
I would say the documenting, absolutely photos, and one a lot of people tend to overlook, and I would say that's videography. Because I once had a bride, she was quite emotional, but I once had a bride, her father passed away a month after the wedding. And she said, Carly, if I can thank you for one thing, is for actually recommending me to have that videographer. And it's not necessarily because your family's going to pass away, but it's just, you can't bring back voices. So, you know, you've got the photos and you can remember standing there at the altar and saying your vows, but can you actually, you know, if you've got, and the video is not for anybody else other than the couple and maybe for the children and whatever else, but nobody can bring back those voices and how you stood there like contesting your love to each other, and that I think is very important as well. So I would say video and photography is an absolute must, and then the planner.
Yes, I realise the planner is so important. Did you have a videographer?
We did. It was actually fortunate because of the industry we work in. A friend of ours, like his gift was providing one of his guys on the day to actually document. And from our point of view, I mean, my sister loves her wedding video because, her, like you say, her kids will go and watch it. They're 10 and 16 years old, and they'll sit and they'll start crying because they're seeing the whole thing. But yeah, our videographer, there's a trend to go with shorter content now, like 2-3 minute pieces. The same thing, like, because we're like in the creative world, we look at references. So what kind of stuff do we like? And there's some beautiful stuff online of like 2 to 3 minutes where you use the vows as the voiceover with a bit of music, and then there's pieces from the day, from the build up to the actual event. And I think like we haven't seen our video yet, unfortunately, because
it takes a while.
Yeah, but looking forward to seeing that, and I think it's one of those things that it will be cherished and will be shared. And yeah, I think that like you said, it's an important element to have because pictures can only tell.
I remember at our wedding we put the disposable cameras on everybody's.
It's the biggest waste of money.
That was now.
It's the biggest waste of money.
That was such a long time ago. Before you had but now you don't need that because everybody's taking their own photographs. That was the era where nobody had. Very few people had cameras on their phones.
And did you get any dodgy pictures?
All
of them dodgy.
There wasn't the D-pic.
Yeah.
You know, of course, my mates decided to take inappropriate photographs.
Well, that's exactly what I was saying.
That's what I would have done.
Yeah, so it was a complete waste. But when I look at weddings that have taken place in the last 5 or 6 years, now everybody's got cameras and beautiful cameras on their phones. You can just go to your mates and say, "Can I have a look at your photographs
so
as well?"
You give a guest the hashtag for the wedding. Then you can collate all of your content. You go look on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter.
Shame, and I think the biggest challenge for videographers and say for photographers as well is that, you know, you go on honeymoon and everyone will ask, okay, first of all, when are you getting married? That's the one question. Then you get married and then you come back from honeymoon. Like they'll ask, where are the photos? And then obviously, where's the baby? But the problem comes in, they land off that plane and they want to be able to see photos, but it does come down to being in the advertising game. You'll probably realize that as well, is that it takes time to get those beautiful images. So by having that hashtag for your guests, then you've got some of the images of your day. So I do suggest that the couples do encourage the hashtag so that they've got the fun photos so that they can wait for the professional photos afterwards.
We've got 5 minutes left of this discussion. So if I can just basically sum it up, the key elements, the key advice you would like to give, Mike, for anybody getting married?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that old adage of fail to plan, plan to fail kind of thing. And it's not like the failure from a bad day point of view. It's just the failure from starting your marriage off on the wrong footing, where you are having like the hives because you've got that 5.5, 6K a month payment that you have to make. And I mean, that's before you paying your cars off, your mortgages, all those kinds of things. And it's an unnecessary stress. And I think that if you go into the marriage not really knowing each other as well as you know each other's financial situation, I think that you really are putting yourselves under unnecessary pressure. Like, have your payments up front, have your big day, and then enjoy that together so that when you're going on honeymoon, you're not sweating about when that first debit order is going to come off from a loan point of view. So I totally agree with what Maya said around, you know, being quite anal about budget. And the fact is that you can have a fantastic day that you've saved for over a year or over a year and a period, because most weddings nowadays, you can't book a venue shorter than a year in advance. So you've got a full year. So what are you doing? What are you saving on in the months in the build-up? Like, are you going out 1 or 2 nights less a month, for example? There's 1,000 rand right there. Like, what are you doing in your monthly expenses? What are you doing from taking holidays in the year building up? So I would think about all those ways that are cost-cutting measures to save that cash in a money market account or a 30-day plus account, and then working with someone that can be quite cruel in terms of chopping things out. And having the wedding planner, they can be the person that takes the brunt within the relationship, like Maya's analogy around the builders. Like, have that person can say, listen, don't have the 20K dress, here's a 15 or 10K option, and these are our thoughts. From a decor point of view, these are ways that we can cut corners or cut options. Work with your planner to have that honesty. So like you say, let's rather work on a fee base as opposed to a commission base, because then she's incentivized to go behind the scenes and cut deals with suppliers where she makes more margin on those deals. You want the margin reduction to be passed on to the couple. And those for me are like prudent kind of life, university of life ways about being smarter about your cash.
You're such a Renaissance man. I mean, that is just beautifully done. And I don't know, Maya, has he taken all the words out of your mouth? I need you to sum up what you think are the best advice for the couple to be married.
Mike said it all, but for me, to women about to get married, don't place your entire happiness on a perfect day. There is no such thing as a perfect day. And I think go with the flow. And I see so many brides whose weddings are ruined over small, little, trivial things because they're so obsessed about perfection. Enjoy it, celebrate it. And if it pours with rain, if the cake collapses, if the dress doesn't, well, maybe the dress doesn't fit, that's a disaster. But, just don't put so much happiness in perfection, I would say. But otherwise, listen to everything Mike said.
Okay, nice one, Maya. I'm going to thank you for your time. It really, as always, great advice from Maya Fisher-French. And Kali, I'm leaving you with the final word.
You were brilliant.
Mike really encapsulated
maybe Maya will give me a job.
The same thing as Maya. A lot of people base their whole year before the wedding planning this wedding. Remember, you've got a lifelong journey together. So don't let that planning of your wedding affect your lifelong journey together. So budget and just get your right people on board. Just don't, and enjoy the process. Don't make it a drag. I mean, and the amount of people will say, when we do the flowers and decor for them, they come in and I'm, how the planning? And she says, I can't wait to get this over with. And I'm like, you should be excited about this moment. So rather just concentrate on the rest of your lives together and not just the wedding day.
For people who are now looking for a wedding planner, where do they go? What's the website?
Shame, like one of my brides I met on Saturday, she was a lovely bride. She's got quite a nice budget. She's like, you are so down to earth and you're not like pushing on all this money onto me. And I'm like,
that's not rugby.
It's the touch rugby, yeah. It's, I also look at the reality of, building a family and a home and all of that. But our website is the SA School of Weddings.co.za, and also from the wedding side of things is www.theweddingsspecialist.co.za.
Theweddingsspecialist.co.za. I've actually trawled around your website and it's got tons of advice, and I love the suggestions of venues, things to do. There's a lot of very interesting ideas that you've got. One thing that I did pick up, which I found interesting, you mentioned Pinterest with a little bit of a sneer in your... Are you not a big fan of Pinterest?
No, absolutely. I think Pinterest has really changed our whole industry. But the reality comes down to just, pin your ideas, pin what you like. I'm not going to go and copy it. I don't want to be a copy and paste type of person. But just come down to, at the end of the day, your wedding will look like a Pinterest wedding because people have pinned professional images as well. Yeah. So that's also, Pinterest is a great tool. And I do suggest everyone uses it, but use it lightly sometimes.
Okay.
Mood board, that's it. Yeah.
Oh, moon board. I don't know.
No, it's a mood.
It's a mood
board.
Mood board.
Yeah.
It's
not a replication of that image.
You don't want to have
maybe
the
we
same.
can have this, maybe we can't. Then it's up to Kali to kick it out or not.
And bring it to life in your unique way for your special day.
Okay, and organise a touch rugby event for the lads as part of the...
I haven't touched a rugby field since I started doing weddings.
Well, it's been very interesting chatting to both of you, and I do thank you, Mike, for your time, Kali as well.
Absolutely.
And I think you've got one of the more stressful jobs in the world. But
they say it's one of the top 6 most stressful jobs in the...
Being a professional golfer and wedding planner.
Yeah, it's crazy, yeah.
Well, you do it with a massive smile, so well done to you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much to both of you. Well, I hope we've given you some great advice for people who are about to get married on what to do, how to plan properly for your weddings. I'm David O'Sullivan. Thank you so much for watching this particular edition of the Iris Session, and I look forward to seeing you the next time. Bye-bye.